conservatorships. If I'm planning to move out of state, let's say I'm planning to move to New York, is it best for me to just wait and get it all done in New York than to do it here? Will I have to repeat the process?
From what I know of New York, it might not be, but if you know you plan to remove this person from the jurisdiction of the court.
They're still a minor.
But okay, if they're still a minor, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But if, let's say, you have asked for guardianship, and then you decide you want to move, you do have to notify the court.
You have to ask permission.
Yeah.
You don't get to write me a letter. You have to ask permission to move. You can do that as part of your petition at the initiating phase. You can do that.
I would suggest if you haven't filed yet and you know you're going to move and it's within a reasonable amount of time.
Like a year, 2 years, and the child's 14.
You wait.
You wait.
Again, this doesn't apply until the child turns 18.
Right.
So if you move before they're 18, it's all moot anyway. But again, you got to look at all the circumstances that those first 2 slides keep coming back. If something's going on that has to be addressed immediately, you don't have a choice.
The other interesting point, and we get this a lot, and it gets a little confusing, is we do guardianships here, and then unexpectedly, in 5 years, somebody has to move. They come in and they say, Judge, we're going to move because I got a better job. This is my child, functioning level of 8. They need to stay with us, blah, blah, blah. We're moving to Ohio. Okay, you can move to Ohio. You still report to me. And it's still a Georgia guardianship in Ohio.
So the annual reporting
it all
still
comes to us, and which, if you don't do it, I cite you, and you are still within my jurisdiction because you consented to stay under my jurisdiction by filing the guardianship.
Yeah, so the jurisdiction is still Georgia.
So I cite you. You have to find your way back here. You have to buy a plane ticket and do all of that.
Or the next time you're caught for speeding in Georgia,
yeah,
you're going to be wearing some jewelry.
But the downside is we have had that situation, and Ohio emergency rooms are like, oh, hell no. You got to go get one. Here, we don't understand this paperwork. We don't, Georgia, they're backwoodsy in Georgia. They don't whatever. And same thing with us. And then there's transfers of guardianships where you can move the guardianship rather than instituting a new one up there. You can say, we've got a guardianship down in Georgia. And there's a whole procedure for transferring between states.
But that whole issue with like an emergency room not accepting a guardianship from Georgia, I actually had that situation. And for the first time, I was actually able to cite the U.S. Constitution that says each state must recognize the legal acts of every other state. That guardianship is a legal act of the state of Georgia. Just like you don't have to get married in every state you go to. They recognize your marriage. And of course, now that's changing. But
and now I get to say what I like to call the DMV rule, which is I can tell you what the law is all day long, but it depends on which person you walk up to, what they're going to require.
Exactly.
So if you're walking into an emergency room on a regular basis with a Georgia guardianship and it's consistently causing you problems, I can tell you that that's legal, and that doesn't matter when you're sitting there with a sick kid that you need to get in the hospital and you don't want to wait for an hour while they pontificate about the validity of my guardianship that I gave you 5 years ago.